You know, it's going to bug me, this mark on my sleeve right here that looks, well, like what it is. It's paint. Hey, forgive me. I'm just getting in from working today. And I've been wanting to film this video since I heard about it. I've been so late to the party with so many big stories that have been taking place as of late. The Derrick Groves, Orleans Parish escapee, who was the last remaining escapee to just recently be captured. Just got an opportunity to cover that. Super late in terms of doing so. Ian Watkins, who was murdered in a UK prison, rightfully so. Horrendous, heinous monster of an individual. And what I'm getting ready to cover here today, Diddy, just receiving, 4 years? A 50-month sentence? Maybe it was 5. In relation to all of the charges that he was just recently going to trial for, beating some of the most serious, including human trafficking and also the RICO charge, but who would just in fact receive 50 months in the feds. Dude got a slap on the wrist. He's already been locked up, 13 months? He's almost halfway through that 50-month sentence. But the most important thing in relation to Diddy is the fact that he is trying to get to a specific federal prison. Fort Dix. So immature of me to be laughing at. Kind of an ironic name for a prison Diddy's trying to get to, isn't it? Fort Dix? Isn't Fort Dix what got Diddy in trouble in the first place? There's so many jokes that I want to make in relation to the name of that particular prison. I'll tell you this, without even knowing, I know that Fort Dix is a low. And there's got to be a reason outside of the name of the facility why Diddy is trying to get sent to this particular prison. Now, I'm going to be honest, I don't know very many instances, I'm sure there's probably been a few, where a prisoner, state or federal, is able to request exactly where they're going to serve their time at, and that request actually be granted. I'm quite certain in the state system, it probably happens slim to none. Maybe in the federal system, you stand a little bit better of a chance of something like that happening. I got to imagine having a high-profile paid lawyer probably helps. Maybe it doesn't. Celebrity status, maybe it helps. Probably doesn't. I like to believe that the judge in the Diddy trial did not like Diddy at all. You know, a judge is supposed to be completely biased in a situation, but I think that that particular judge had their mind made up that they were going to give Diddy the max, or at least close to it, in terms of sentence imposed from the jump. That's just my particular opinion. I'm sure that that judge could have sentenced Diddy to more time, which could have seemed egregious. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. We're here to talk about the fact that Diddy is trying to get to Fort Dix, a low-custody federal prison, to serve the remainder of his 50-month federal prison sentence. Why is Diddy trying to get to this particular prison? Well, here's a story that just came out a couple of days ago in relation to this, saying FCI FORT DIX, the low-security prison where Diddy Combs wants to serve out his sentence. I'm sure this story is going to tell us quite a bit more about this particular institution. If lawyers for Sean Diddy Combs get their way, the hip-hop mogul will spend his next few years in a massive low-security prison with a drug abuse treatment program not too far from family. Okay, maybe that's why he wants to get transferred there. Be closer to home. You know, in the federal system, they got a tendency of sending your ass to Timbuktu, putting you on Con Air and shipping you across the country. What is that thing called that the feds do? Damn, I can't even remember the name of it. Where they keep you in transport. Damn, there's a word for that. There's a saying, there's a name of that. When they keep you moving. It's almost a punishment when you're never kept in a prison for longer than a couple of days. You're not even going to be there long enough to receive any mail, to get your phone PIN number working. Damn, I can't remember what they call that. I've been out of the game for too long, folks. If you know better than I do, what is that called? So Diddy's saying that he wants to go to this prison because they have a drug abuse program there, which, if he gets into that, I believe can actually knock time off of his sentence. He might be able to get a year knocked off of his sentence completing a federal drug program. But it's also got to be a prison where you want to serve time at. Somewhat of a country club, so to speak. I don't know anything about that particular prison, but that's just what I imagine. Combs' lawyers on Monday asked Judge Arun Subramanian to recommend to the Bureau of Prisons that he be placed at FCI FORT DIX, a federal correctional facility in Fort Dix, New Jersey. My dumbass was about to say Fort Dix, Indiana. There, Combs can address drug abuse issues and maximize family visitation and rehabilitative efforts. Defense attorney Tenny Garangos wrote in a letter to the court. The letter specifically noted FCI FORT DIX RDAP program, or Residential Drug Abuse Treatment Program. Old RDAP. It's a program in the feds that can knock a year off of your sentence. The letter comes days after Combs was sentenced to 4 years and 2 months in prison for his July conviction on 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. He has already served just over a year in detention since his arrest last September, so now is looking at less than 3 more years behind bars. Fort Dix is the largest federal prison in the U.S. with just over 4,100 total male inmates. Kind of gives a whole new meaning to the name of that facility. Fort Dix, after all, including about 3,900 at the FCI and about 200 at an adjacent minimum security satellite camp, according to its website. Yeah, those satellite camps in the feds are definitely club fed all day. I've heard they don't even have fences around them. Why would you run from a satellite camp? What do you got in the federal system? How does it go? You've got a USP, a United States Penitentiary. That's your highest level. Then you've got a medium. Then you've got a low. And then you've got a satellite camp. And then you've got a halfway house. The prison is attached to the military base Fort Dix in southern New Jersey. It's about an hour's drive from Philadelphia and about an hour and a half from New York City, where Combs was born and where he is currently incarcerated. The prison has hosted a number of high-profile figures, including Real Housewife of New Jersey star Joe Giudice, former Detroit Mayor Kwame Kilpatrick, and farmer bro Martin Shkreli. I found it wide open for a prison. Wide open. Something you never want to say while serving time. Christopher Zucchini, the consulting division director of law practice Elizabeth Franklin Best PC and author of the Federal Prison Handbook, said he generally advises his clients to avoid FCI FORT DIX. Fort Dix is a weird beast, he said, noting it has had problems with gang violence, contraband drugs, and phones, and not enough staff. In general, low-security prisons like FCI FORT DIX are pretty laid-back places with little violence, Zucchini said. They tend to have dorm-style settings and communal bathrooms. Yeah, which means that you're taking a shit right next to the next guy, watching him watch you. One appeal of a place like Fort Dix is its RDAP program, an intensive 9 to 12-month treatment program for prisoners with substance abuse problems. Graduates of the program can get their sentence reduced by up to a year. RDAP is great because if you qualify for the time off of your sentence, then it can be a massive sentence reduction. Somebody who wrote for Vice in 2017, a filmmaker, Seth Ferranti, who served over 2 decades in federal prison on drug charges, reflected on his experience at FCI FORT DIX. When I was first transferred to the low-security facility myself in 1999, I found it wide open for a prison, more like a little town of its own, he wrote. Coming down from higher security facilities I spent the bulk of my 21-year sentence in, I was surprised at the laid-back attitude of both the staff and inmates who seemed to operate on a different wavelength from the more ferocious federal pens. Don't get it twisted, though. This is still prison, and at the end of the day, Prison sucks no matter where you're at. The prison has had several high-profile incidents of contraband in recent years. Shkreli, for one, was reportedly running his pharmaceutical company from behind bars using a contraband smartphone. Damn. He was later transferred to a prison in Pennsylvania. In 2020, several men were arrested and charged in a scheme in which they used drones to smuggle cell phones, phone chargers, tobacco, and other items into the prison. According to federal prosecutors, the Bureau of Prisons will ultimately make its decision where to place Combs. The Bureau Designation and Sentence Computation Center makes that decision based on a number of factors such as security, bed availability, program needs, and judicial recommendations. I wonder what the judge's recommendation as to where Diddy should serve his time is. The Bureau generally attempts to place inmates in facilities within 500 driving miles of their residence. Yeah, that's what I was talking about. They're likely to ship you to Timbuktu. 500 miles is a long frickin' ways away. That's like a quarter of a way across the country. The Department of Justice says it does not take a position on where Combs should serve his sentence. The Bureau of Prisons operates minimum, low, medium, and high security prisons. Low security prisons house about 36% of inmates, while medium security houses 33%, according to federal data. The Bureau of Prisons Public Information Office said in an automated email it was not available to respond to this inquiry in terms of comment, citing the government shutdown. Yeah, that's interesting to know. Do you think Diddy's going to end up at a wide open prison like Fort Dix? Do you think he's going to qualify for an RDAP program and receive a year off of his sentence? Is prison going to be a nonstop Diddy party for Diddy when he gets to prison? One thing is for certain. I know that he is relieved to receive the sentence that he did in comparison to what he was probably facing. But I do know that Diddy was definitely looking to get released. He even wrote a letter to the judge prior to going to sentencing. But you know, none of that shit matters. The man had some egregious shit that he was charged with. And whether you're found guilty or innocent, sometimes you're still looked upon as guilty in the eyes of the courtroom and the public, in the court of public opinion. You guilty AF just because you was charged with that shit. Yeah, so I don't know, man. What will prison be like for Diddy? I think it's going to be a walk in the park. Diddy definitely going to be living high on the hall. He's going to be a celebrity for real. I know R. Kelly's probably pissed off to see the amount of time that Diddy received in comparison to the 30 years he got. What if Diddy and R. Kelly end up at the same prison together? R. Kelly's at Butner, North Carolina. What if they wrote an album together? Bad Boys. Kind of ironic, isn't it? Just like Fort Dix, where Diddy's trying to go. Forgive me for all the silliness of this. Hey, I just wanted to share this with you. I find this interesting. Do you think that Diddy is going to end up at Fort Dix, a place that he is trying to go to? And if so, does that scream favoritism? I personally don't believe he's going to end up there just because he's trying to get there. I think they're going to ship his ass off to Texas or Alaska somewhere. Diddy really going to be out there in comparison to where he's trying to go. You let me know what you think. I'd be curious to do an update on this when he does end up getting shipped to wherever he's going to serve the remainder of his sentence at. Folks, I just wanted to share this story with you. I find this to be somewhat interesting, and I hope that you did as well too. If you enjoyed this or found any interest in this, please leave a like and a comment on this video. It would be greatly appreciated. And as always, until next time, enjoy life, the free world. Never take a moment for granted, and make the most of every day. Peace!